right, good morning, everybody. Today is Tuesday, February 23rd, 2016, and this is Before the First Cup with Jules here on UCY.TV. Happy Tuesday, everybody. It is 25 degrees and partly cloudy here in upstate New York. Looks like we might get some rain. I don't know, there were some pretty brutal storms down south last night that appear to be heading my way, so maybe we'll get a good storm. I don't know. It's been pretty boring lately, so it would be all right to get a good thunderstorm especially. So where do we leave off? And yesterday, we titled the show Google, AI, Robots, and Becoming Technology's Prisoner. And we looked at a lot of interesting stuff. The self-driving car, the transition at Google from the search engine head to the AI head taking over. The Google Truth algorithm and Bill Clinton calling for it, and some major crap happening with my show from 2 weeks ago Friday. Tell you, I took a look at some of my other shows, and I am really hoping that it was just Friday's show that had all of my description links truncated. But interestingly enough, that was the show about cybersecurity and the NSA. So, if there was a show they were going to hit, it would be that one. So if that's the case, I'm going to go back and fix those notes when I get a second and put those links back in there. But if anybody else is noticing strange things happening in their YouTube videos under description, where the links themselves, they might show that they're truncated, but when you click on them, they're dead links too, and they take you to a 404 file not found. Let me know, because like I said, I had a fear yesterday that it was all of my shows from the last year and a half on YouTube, and it appears, at least at first glance, that it was only 2 Fridays ago. If that's the case, I'm all right with that. Maybe Google just took a burp or something, but all right, so where are we going to continue on today? I think we ended the show looking at Alphabet shaking up the robotics division, and we found out that, and Alphabet, of course, is the new umbrella corporation for Google and all of its alphabet letter subsidiaries. The dude who had been running the robotics division has since left, and I think they said that it had been without a leader for the last 2 years after they bought all of those robotics companies and Boston Dynamics and that. Then he left and went to go create some new startup for youngsters in technology. But at the very end of the article, we discovered that Google did invest in his new company to boot. So, I don't know. We'll have to dig into him. But Google has renamed its robotics division the X division. And I don't know if they ever said, they didn't say that they had a new chief yet. So it'll be interesting to see. But we know that one of their biggest pushes right now is for the self-driving car. And we looked at the self-driving car. That has been approved. As far as having a software driver in your car, it has been approved by the National Safety Transportation Authority, which I find that so hard to believe, but I guess, the way everything is going, they're just rubber stamping everything that's going to be responsible for our enslavement. The National Safety Transportation Administration has approved the self-driving software as a valid driver of a car, meaning that it will pave the way for them to remove steering wheels and remove brake and acceleration pedals from cars and make a car, I don't even know what you'd call it, like a utility. It's just going to show up one day. It's going to be plug and play. The door will even open probably by itself. They're calling the program Chauffeur. Remember, we mentioned that's probably how they're going to sell it, is spin it to housewives. Push the button and have the chauffeur come. Take you out for a night on the town with your friends with the chauffeur. Oh, yeah. And then Google also had their new home cleaning robots that are pretty clunky. Like I said, I think the Japanese are going to beat us in that. But it's a pretty scary world. So on top of that, back a couple weeks ago, we had looked at Clapper, the head of the director of national intelligence, James Clapper, coming out and telling us that our Internet of Things devices, right? We've talked about the Internet of Things many, 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 many times, but these are originally, they were your internet-enabled refrigerators, washing machines, dishwashers, stoves, heating, thermostats, air conditioners, I don't know, whatever else. All of these appliances around your house that have been enabled with a little IIS card to be able to connect to the internet, some sort of 802.11 wireless to connect to whatever hub it's using within your house, whether it be your router or your smart meter or whatever else, to send information somewhere. Then we found out that Google had bought that Nest Corporation that not only was doing like heating and air conditioning controls, HVAC, but they were also looking at spinning off into surveillance. We found out also Samsung, for quite a number of years now, has already had that two-way capability in their TVs, and Samsung has been warning that if you're around its television, these are the newer ones, that there isn't any type of modicum of privacy. So if you're going to have a private conversation, you should go to another room. No, how insane is that? It's your house. I mean, we even found out back quite a number of years ago in the Xbox, and Paul Joseph Watson, I think we played that when Lady Pitbull was on once. You know, the Xbox was scanning players of the game with the naked body scanners. Paul Joseph Watson was pointing out how with the images coming from the video game, you literally could see like every bump and grind. That would be very disturbing, especially if you had a pedophile on the other end. You know, the feds have been using video games, at least for the last 20 years that I'm aware of, to be able to rank kids. You know, we talked about back when I used to work in distribution way back in the 90s for computer parts, way back when it first started. And we saw the Department of Defense skew up as the vendor on the first video game with first-person flight sim capabilities. We all question what on earth the Department of Defense was doing making video games. Well, you know, 18 to 20 years ago, now it all makes sense. We have these very well-trained drone bombers that can sit in a room and use a joystick and kill unnamed people. It's just like a video game. Well, the next generation is coming. And we've mentioned this quite a number of times. I told you, this is all about the dangling carrot. Being sold with convenience. That was, again, another one of Bernays' ideas. To sell you with convenience, to get you to buy. Well, this technological state that we found ourselves in is all about feeding us the convenience. But not only feeding us the convenience, but addicting us with dopamine. So we have virtual reality now. I don't know if you've seen any commercials yet, but it's coming. I have some friends that are still in the industry, and I've heard a few little sprinkles here and there, but it is definitely coming. I saw an ad for some, I don't know if it was a boxing fight, but they are planning on selling subscriptions. It'll be like a pay-per-view. Selling subscriptions for, $9.95 a month. Get your special goggles. You'll have a front row seat. You have a front row seat to every football game, to every hockey game, to every fight. I mean, what better of a distraction? We thought TV was bad now, getting sucked in the machine, reality TV and everything else. Could you imagine full immersive television? We've talked about augmented cognition before and how that really is something that they are planning. There were a couple TED Talks we listened to. Eventually, they want to be able to give you as much access as they can give you 24/7 to the machine. So, hey, the end result of that is going to be what we've already seen: National Geographic TV live online brain implants coming to a TV channel near you. They're trying to normalize this stuff. And the next step to that is to make you want to be in the machine all the time. I just saw recently, too, we never got to that story because I had a browser crash, but there was a new contact lens. Maybe I'll have to dig that up to put it in the notes, but there was a brand new contact lens that allows you to access the internet in your eye. We knew that was coming. That's like the next step of Google Glass. Don't remember, your optic nerve goes direct to your brain, guys. And I know it sounds insane, but there is all this crazy brain research, cyborg crap going on. I wouldn't let any of this stuff get near my brain at all. Don't let it get near your eye, your ear, your brain, because they're messing with you and they're doing experiments. I just saw too, and if I can scroll down, I don't know, Facebook is already messing with me. Like I put all my posts there, they feed out into RSS. Here it is. And then they're already hidden like in a day or two. I just saw the other day, I think we talked about this a while ago. There's all these new devices coming, right? So we have the Internet of Things. So that's going to be your dangling, shiny carrots. And don't forget, it's not just going to be your appliances and your HVAC. In the future, it's going to be you, right? The Fitbits, your internet-enabled sneakers now. We saw from that Under Armour company that's partnering with IBM with their IBM Watson. Yes. You're going to have smart toilets sending info to your doctor every morning. That smart refrigerator scanned everything in your fridge, took instant pictures and could tell when something was missing and place orders for you. And we're worried already that the adult attention span has reached that of a goldfish, which I think is like 6 seconds. And there was a study from Microsoft that blames computers and mobile devices for a lack of attention span. Could you imagine what it's going to be when our smart appliances and our Fitbits and our Google self-driving cars do it all for us? And don't worry about the fact that the robots are going to take all the jobs. And we've already read about that many, many times. It's pretty much confirmed. That is what's going on. South Korea is building armies of robots for China. And even the Chinese are going to be replaced. Then what? Are we going to get our guaranteed basic income? Some guy called into Intermedia last night, and if he's around, I just want to say it was a great call, but he was asking a very good question. Like, if the robots are going to be taking all these jobs and making, I guess, money for these corporations, except that all of the consumers that were buying the products no longer have jobs to buy anything, what are we going to do? Are we going to sit around and, like Kurzweil said, come up with artistic pursuits and deep thought thinking to fix the world's problems? I don't think that's what's going to happen, people. People get bored, and guess what? Guess what happens to kids when they get bored? They get into trouble. And they don't want us getting into trouble. They've been trying to squash us, make us work hard and be too tired to get into trouble. So all of a sudden, if there isn't something to keep us occupied, like trying to afford work and food and heat and all the basics to live, we're not going to be worth much of anything. We can be offered free medical procedures. That's what I see. Line item R&D budget gone. You've just been given up as the guinea pig. All right, I want to get back, before I get too off the rails here, I want to get back to this Internet of Things spying from Mr. Clapper. I think I read a little bit of this a couple weeks ago. Intel chief confirms our worst nightmare. Home smart devices are ideal for spying on you. Director of National Intelligence James Clapper stated to the Senate Armed Services Committee, and this is from February 10th, that the Internet of Things, so-called smart devices, vehicles, appliances, which employ various computer technologies, may be used to spy and keep tabs on people in the future. Now, when I was talking about this just, a short year ago, again, I was a lunatic, tinfoil hat wearing maniac. I'm not anymore. In the future, intelligence services might use the Internet of Things for identification, surveillance, monitoring, location tracking, and targeting for recruitment. Ding, ding. Now, that's something else that we read that they were using the video games for. They have actually been tracking performance stats on video games for quite a long time and identifying people who did really well. I don't remember what story that was that we were reading, but they talked about that. They were using it to recruit for future military, watching the statistics on how the kids are playing the game. Though Clapper's remarks were ostensibly and not surprisingly directed toward the fight against terrorism, the potential implications for all civilians cannot be ignored, particularly considering the Internet of Things comprises everything from smart cars to fitness tracking devices to televisions and Barbie dolls. Oh, yeah, we forgot about Barbie. Remember, and Barbie and those robot dogs. I said my kid is not getting one of those. There's not going to be any creepy artificial intelligence internet connected Barbie in my kid's room. Sorry about that, Mattel. Clapper warns that the threats from Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and such non-state actors as ISIL and Al-Qaeda can be expected in the form of cyber attacks, gathering information about individuals, even psyops, which make the Internet of Things vulnerable to malicious intent and ideal for U.S. intelligence gathering purposes. Now, a couple things have happened, too. Remember, we had the feds. This was 2 weeks ago. We talked about that it was 19. It was 1.8 billion for Zika. And the next day, Obama announced 19 billion for cybersecurity. All in the name of fighting insurgents. Whether it be hackers getting into your bank or Al-Qaeda hiding under your bed, Zika mosquitoes hiding in your closet. They pulled in all of the corporations in a cover your ass moment to say, look, you guys are all going to work with us. And they're like, but our stocks are going to drop if they know we're working with you. And the Fed said, don't worry about it, because you know what? We're going to say it's all in the name of cybersecurity. And we're going to sprinkle you extra dollars. Here's a kickback, part of that $19 billion that we just sucked out of the taxpayer's pocket. Nobody's going to blame you. Don't worry about it. We're protecting our nation from outside negative influences. And remember, a cyber attack, we've declared an act of war. So it's all good. You have now become a part of the technological military industrial corporation complex, or whatever it is now. Oh, we have to add medical in there as well. Yeah, I saw something the other day, and maybe I can find it fast. I thought it was pretty surprising that on top of Obama approaching all of these technology companies about being a part of, the team, be a part of the team now. You're either going to be a part of the team or we're going to send Keith Alexander in there with his new cybersecurity, quote unquote, white hat company that's going to protect you from hackers. Of course, Keith Alexander had been the former head of the NSA who had formed all of the multitude of cyber hacking institutions within the United States government, military, and otherwise. Keith Alexander now is in private practice and was asking, I think it was $1 million a month. $1 million a month to go into your company, Wall Street, all the bankers on Wall Street, you guys are going to get hacked. No, we're not. And then, whoops, they got hacked because they wouldn't pay him his $1 million a month. But hey, I didn't say that. $1 million a month for Keith Alexander to keep you safe. And if you don't want to pay Keith Alexander $1 million a month, hey, you're going to be a target for any of these hacker crackers, ISIS, China, Russia, North Korea, and they're going to embarrass you. And then you're going to have to send letters out to all of your customers and tell them that their information has been compromised. I told you guys, I've gotten 3 of those letters already in the last few months from my bank, my health insurance company, and my mortgage company, all telling me that all of our information has been stolen. Hey, what's the big deal? You know what? Social security number, home address, I don't know how many times you've, whatever. I don't even know what type of information they'd have on me. It's just pretty frightening. Anyway, I can't find that story. Obama, it's actually here. Hold on. I hate when I have to look for things, but they've made things difficult for me, and I haven't sung in a couple weeks, so we'll sing for a few seconds. They've made things difficult for me. All right. Oh yeah, and this is the one that none of the links work. There was a story I found the other day about Obama. Let's find this. Come on. Obama here. I did find it. Oh, but it doesn't work. Hold on. Let's not ruin my groove. Do. All right. White House asks Silicon Valley to help silence ISIS online. We'd seen a few weeks back that Twitter had shut down 25,000 Twitter accounts that they had deemed to be ISIS recruiting tools. Yeah, all right, let's get there. We had also seen last summer all the tech heads going to the White House. I mean, I have been in this industry for 25 years. I followed Bill Gates like a bloodhound. We used to think he was so great, and then we thought he was so evil, but I've kept my eye on that asshole for a long time. Bill Gates used to go visit heads of state all over the world to peddle his wares. But Bill Gates was always, he kind of snub his nose at the feds like they were stupid. And that was pretty much the way the industry worked. The federal government was not involved with the technology companies. The federal government was always looked at as slow and dumb. Because they were. And cheap. But all of a sudden, the arms come out and they've been pulled into the fold. Like I said, sprinkled dollars everywhere. Part of defending national security. And now everybody's on board. Because you know what? We found a way to cover your ass so your shareholders didn't get upset that you were giving them up to the machine. White House asked Silicon Valley to help silence ISIS online. The Obama administration wants Silicon Valley to help drown out the Islamic State's message. Top federal officials and major American technology firms held a summit in San Jose, California, to discuss how to stop ISIS from recruiting terrorists on social media. The White House is exploring several ideas according to discussions. And one key focus is tracking radicals. The White House wanted to discuss, quote, techniques to detect and measure radicalization. Now, we've talked about, too, social media. We've discovered that Facebook has been using social media for quite a number of years to do social experiments on how information is passed, on how they can send something out and get it to go viral, on how they can convince people to change their avatar based upon an event. And they've been tabulating this information and getting universities, of course, that probably have sprinkled funding from some federal agency, including DARPA, to then discover what that means about the human mind and how to manipulate us better. You know, Obama's also hiring some sort of new ad chief to spin the message. Talked about that a few times, just like good old Bernays was back in the early days. Federal officials recognize the discussion, this is about measuring radicalization, requires the consideration of the First Amendment protections and privacies and civil liberty concerns. Yes, of course they do. They always put that line in there and then chuck it out a window for national security. A second idea centers on propaganda. Yes, 2013 NDAA made that legal in the United States against its own people. ISIS is adept at sharing warfare propaganda, and the government hopes that tech firms will block pro-ISIS messages, photos, and videos, and I'm going to add my own little aside, and be able to utilize their own propaganda on us, like pictures in science magazines with tinfoil hat wearing cats and biohazard Zika mosquitoes telling us that we're crazy. Yeah, just like that propaganda. But the White House also wants, quote, an increase in the availability of alternative content, propaganda, according to the outline. In a separate briefing on Friday, White House Press Secretary Josh Ernst said the administration is, quote, seeking ways to create, publish, and amplify content that counteracts the radicalizing message from ISIS and other extremists. So there you go. Ding, ding, ding. They are seeking ways to create, publish, and amplify content that counteracts the radicalizing message from ISIS and other extremists. Yes, like us. So they are going to create their propaganda message and jump on it full steam to discredit anything that alternative media, and ISIS puts out there. The Obama administration has also heard from advertising executives interested in helping craft those new messages. Hey, look at that. Friday's meeting in California included Obama's chief of staff, a top counterterrorism advisor, good old director of national intelligence, James Clapper, the same one that said the Internet of Things can be used to spy on you, as well as Department of Justice officials. They're not screwing around, people. I'm telling you, 2016 is the year. All these leading tech firms were there, including Apple. Oh, yes. Oh, the San Bernardino phone. Wait, Apple. Now, check this out. This is how I know it's such a crock of bullshit. This whole Apple thing going on about the unlocking the phone for the FBI. Apple was here about combating ISIS and terrorists at the White House or wherever they were in California with top justice officials and the head of national intelligence and Obama's chief of staff and their top counterterrorism advisor. So then they go to Apple and they're like, hey, we need the info from that San Bernardino quote unquote terrorist attack. And Apple says no, because guess what? It's going to compromise our security and leave a back door open and whatever. And Apple's not complying. Look, this is what I know. The first time that I ever saw the tech heads show up in Washington was when it came out that end users were pissed off that all these companies that they had quote unquote trusted to keep their information private were just spreading them for the feds without any type of warrants. This is all these warrantless searches that were happening and giving it up to the machine without anyone knowing, and all their stock prices started to fall. Nobody trusted them anymore. No one wanted to buy their shit anymore. And we're talking about going to some sort of open source, Linux, Unix, cracked cell phones. And the tech company says, whoa, this isn't good. This is really going to hurt us for 2016, 2015 at the time. You need to give us a cover your ass moment. And that's what it's all about. It's a cover your ass moment. The feds are all in on it. Make sure now all you tech companies show how you're kicking. I don't want to do it. As the feds are telling you have to save face for the end user. But don't trust them. Do not trust them at all. I mean, even though Apple probably does have, I was reading about the self-destruct 10 incorrect tries to get in the phone and it just wipes it all clean, and that's what the feds are all worried about. You know, John McAfee came out and said that he'd do it for free just to cover Apple's ass so they don't have to give away any keys. And I believe that they could. I am pretty sure that there are hackers out there that could hack into anything. So the good question, why the FBI is making such a big deal about it, I think they just want the keys. Or maybe they're just playing good cop, bad cop. We got to make Apple now seem like it's really secure so everybody goes flocking there. I don't know. But very interesting that they were at this big tech meeting just a month ago, and now all of a sudden there's this big battle between the feds and Apple not wanting to unlock something for some quote-unquote terrorist attack. They were here about terrorism. Anyway, in the meeting in California included Obama's chief of staff, a top counterterrorism advisor, the director of national intelligence, James Clapper, and Department of Justice officials. And all the leading tech firms were there, including Apple, Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, Microsoft, and Twitter. Oh. Facebook, of course, would not discuss the exact details of the meeting, but a company representative said that the social media platform was on board to help. This meeting confirmed that we are united in our goal to keep terrorists and terror-promoting material off of the internet. Again, couple that with Bill Clinton's Internet of Truth and Google's truth algorithm, and you can see where this is all headed. Facebook says that it does not tolerate terrorists or terror propaganda, and they are working aggressively to remove it as soon as they become aware of it. Now, talking about Facebook, there was some stuff that came out yesterday. We were going back to video games and the Xbox and Microsoft and the Oculus. I always want to call it the Oculus Prime. It's what it's going to be called eventually. The Oculus Rift 3D goggles. Facebook wants to help internet providers get ready for virtual reality. Guys, this is the next step beyond Google Glass to get us to augmented cognition. It is the first real step now into the Matrix. It's February 22nd. This is from yesterday. Facebook announced today, which was yesterday, the launch of the Telecom Infra Project, or TIP for short, which is bringing together a coalition of internet service providers and tech companies to focus on engineering challenges of delivering high-resolution video and virtual reality. The group has 30 initial members, including T-Mobile, Nokia, Intel, Deutsche Telekom, and SK Telecom. And the approach is modeled after the Open Compute Project, which was started by Facebook in 2011 to share designs of data center products and has ties to Facebook's Internet.org initiative to bring connectivity to rural areas and developing countries. Now, that is an interesting story because while we're reading this, I need to go hit the UCY page because there was a story there yesterday about Facebook mapping all of their users on a big fat map And the reason that they were mapping us all on a big fat map was all in the name of knowing where we have internet deficiency. So in their project to bring internet to the world, and remember, it's not just Facebook that's working on balloons and crap, but also Google, they'll know exactly where to find you. All right, anyway, I just found it, so we'll get to that after this one. Anyway, so it was started, the approach is modeled after the Open Compute Project, which was started by Facebook in 2011 to share designs of data center products and has ties to Facebook's Internet.org initiative to bring connectivity to rural areas in developing countries. Every day, more people and more devices around the world are coming online, and it is becoming easier to share data-intensive experiences like video and virtual reality, says Jay Perica, Facebook's head of global engineering and infrastructure, in his blog post. Scaling traditional telecom infrastructure to meet this global data challenge is not moving as fast as people need it to. Oh, who needs it to move that fast? I mean, I don't know, if you want to get sucked in the machine, I guess. The tip technology companies and hardware makers are now all working together to contribute designs for products like wireless radios and optical fiber gear to better manage, store, and deliver intensive data, while telecoms can then use those designs in practice. This will result in significant gains in cost and operational efficiency for both rural and urban deployments. The group will also work toward accelerating the development of 5G networks. And how interesting is that? Because weren't we just reading, isn't that one of Google's brand new projects was launching 5G towers into the stratosphere? Because I'm pretty sure that was that one obscure program that we read about 2 Fridays ago that I'd never heard of before. Facebook has one of the largest financial stakes in the success of VR, given its $2 billion purchase of Oculus VR in 2014. Yeah, so Facebook owns Oculus. The company is also one of the only companies capable of rallying an entire industry behind an open source initiative like the TIP. Everything leads back to Facebook.com, of course, as every new internet user with a high-speed data connection is a potential new member of the social network. Now, we're going to give you internet, but the only place you can go, Africa, is to Facebook. And we're going to make sure that you are not a member of Boko Haram by tracking all your connections. And not only your connections, but now we can map exactly where you are and send a drone. Facebook says any company can join TIP. Don't do it. And it's launched a new website over at telecominfraproject.com for prospective members and the general public to check out. All right, Facebook is now using AI to make detailed maps of where people live. Facebook is now applying its significant computing muscle toward creating maps of where people live and how that affects their internet connections. Of course, that's why we're making maps, using AI to do it. It's all about making sure you have a better internet experience there, Johnny. The map should help Facebook determine which types of connectivity solutions work best for the 10% of the world's population without internet access. The project is part of Facebook's Connectivity Lab, the technical arm of its Internet.org initiative that deals with what? Oh, deals with drones. Yes, those internet drones. Remember the ones that they put the little nasty lasers and grenade launchers on? Yeah, those drones. The initiative that deals with drones, satellites, and lasers. Hey, ding. For delivering internet to rural areas and developing countries. With better maps, the company is able to determine whether Wi-Fi hotspots or cellular technologies are better for bringing people online and helping them to sign up for Facebook. This is insane. To generate the maps, Connectivity Lab worked with Facebook's data science division, their infrastructure unit, and the machine learning and artificial intelligence groups. And the coalition analyzed satellite imagery for 20 countries, covering 21.6 million square kilometers, which amounted to 350 terabytes of data. Using a mixture of computer vision techniques, including image recognition engine that Facebook uses to identify people's faces in photos, the team was able to identify human-built structures. The company stresses that it didn't use any Facebook photos to create its data. Well, phew. Facebook then honed the maps by applying machine learning and AI techniques, which, quote, succeeded in identifying outlines of buildings and highlighted those for which it had high confidence while suppressing areas not likely to contain human-made structures. Yeah, like that area over there with all the trees and the rhinos. Once the structures were laid out, Facebook was able to use them as proxies for where and how people live. Using the census data, the team redistributed the population data sets evenly across each location under the assumption that the method was the least error-prone way of determining how many people lived in each building. I mean, guys, talk about beyond invasive. This is Facebook. And it's doing this to people who don't even have accounts in third world nations. It is beyond insane. The net has fallen. We are now prisoners. The company says it will be releasing the data to the general public later this year. We believe this data has many more impactful applications, such as socioeconomic research and risk assessment for, of course, natural disasters that would be caused by climate change. The team has plans to work with Columbia University's Center for International Earth Science Information Network to create a new combined population data set later this year. So, wow, give it up for Zuckerberg, because Zuckerberg gets the turd of the week, especially with this next story. So this is the one that bothered me, Mr. Nick Barnaby of Antimedia Radio. The antimedia.org actually posted this on Facebook yesterday, and I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. It says, this image of Mark Zuckerberg says so much about our future. This is out of The Verge. And you are seeing in this picture an entire auditorium of tech geeks. I used to go to these shows. And they're all, some have sports coats on, some don't, but they all have lanyards around their necks and their laptops in their lap and VR goggles on. The entire auditorium. And as they're all sucked into their machine with their VR goggles, here's goofy Mark Zuckerberg looking like the 14-year-old who's still too gangly for his own good, with this shit-eating stupid grin on his face, walking down the aisle in a t-shirt and jeans and sneakers. And not one of these people in the auditorium even knows that he's walking down the aisle. Because guess what? They're all sucked into the machine. Let's read the story. The image above, so this is this image I just described, looks like a concept art for a new dystopian science fiction film. A billionaire Superman with a rictus grin striding past human drones tethered to machines and blinded to reality by blinking plastic masks. That's a pretty good description. Golden light shines down on the man as he strides past his subjects, cast in gloom toward a stage where he will accept their adulation. And later that night, He will pour across his vast network and read their praise, heaped upon him in superlatives as he drives what remains of humanity forward to his singular vision. Except this is not from a sci-fi movie. It's from Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, and this man is Facebook's boss, Mark Zuckerberg. The picture trips all of our horrible cyberpunk future alarms, carefully put into place by everything from The Matrix to Noam Chomsky's Manufacturing Consent. And the former uses evil squid-bodied robots, which we talked about, the tentacles of the octopus. They're getting into everything. The latter privileged human elites, but both sees humanity too distracted and preoccupied by a full-scale replica of a late 90s reality or just sports TV show to even be aware of the actions of those in charge. Zuckerberg's picture acts this out. The Mobile World Congress attendees plugged into Samsung's gear. VR headsets literally cannot see the Facebook boss as he breezes past them. Now, interesting that they all have on Samsung Google goggles, whatever they are. Samsung, we discovered in doing our research back a few months ago, not only makes spying televisions, but they also have robotics factories that they're building armies of robots for China, and they have a military arm. Samsung has a partnership with Google as well. Google has a dotted line to DARPA. It's just so ugly. What is perhaps scarier is that Mark Zuckerberg chose to share this image himself, figuring it would be a good look. It appeared on his own Facebook page yesterday, quickly giving rise to a number of comedy copies as people spotted its inherent creepiness and combined it with movies, dinosaurs, and that iconic Apple ad set in a similar setting of a dystopian future. Mark Zuckerberg might have stolen the show at Samsung's Mobile World Conference, but in this unfortunate picture at least, it looks more like he's planning to steal our brains. Da, 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 da. It is beyond frightening. So, I don't know. Where do we go from here? Talking about stealing our brains. We got about 8 minutes, so maybe we can get into this one. Good old Microsoft. You know, Bill Gates actually came out and had some stuff to say about the San Bernardino Apple iPhone FBI battle. And he talked about Beyonce yesterday. I was like, oh my God. But don't think that Microsoft is not in the game. We have some of the former Microsoft executives working in the longevity business. You know, the tech billionaires trying to finance living forever. There's a story that I've had queued up for probably about a month now. Microsoft NeuroNet shows deep learning can get way deeper. You know, they're all in this AI game, guys. Computer vision is now a part of everyday life. Facebook recognizes faces in photos that you post to the popular social network, and Google photo apps can find images buried in your collection, identifying everything from dogs to birthday parties to gravestones. Twitter can also pinpoint pornographic images without help from its curators. But all of the seeing, quote unquote, stems from a remarkably effective breed of artificial intelligence called deep learning. And that is also the stuff that Kurzweil is working on with Google. But as far as this much hype technology has come in recent years, a new experiment from Microsoft Research shows that it is only getting started. Woohoo! Deep learning can go much deeper. This revolution in computer vision was a long time in coming. A key turning point came in 2012 when artificial intelligence researchers from the University of Toronto won a competition called ImageNet. ImageNet pits machines against each other in an image recognition contest, which computers can identify cats or cars or clouds or more accurately than each other. And that year, the Toronto team, including researcher Alex Krzyzewski and Professor Jeff Hinton, topped the contest using deep neural nets, a technology that learns to identify images by examining enormous numbers of them rather than identifying images according to rules diligently hand-coded by humans. Yes, those pesky inferior humans. Toronto's win provided a roadmap for the future of deep learning, and in the years since, the biggest names on the net, including Facebook, Google, Twitter, and Microsoft, have used similar technology to build computer vision systems that can match and even surpass humans. We can't claim that our system sees like a person does, says Peter Lee, the head of Microsoft Research, but we can say that it is for very specific, narrowly defined tasks we can learn to be as good as humans. Roughly speaking, neural nets use hardware and software to approximate the web of neurons in the human brain. And this idea dates back to the 1980s, which I think I have that DARPA hardcover book sitting in my dining room. But in 2012, Krzyzewski and Hinton advanced the technology by running their neural nets atop of a graphical processing unit. These specialized chips were originally designed to render images for video games, ding ding, and other highly graphical software, but as it turns out, they are also suited to the kind of math that drives neural nets. Google, Facebook, Twitter, and Microsoft, and so many others now use graphical processing unit-powered AI to handle image recognition and so many other tasks, from internet searching to security. And Krzyzewski and Hinton joined who? Oh, the staff at Google. I remember that, actually. Now the latest ImageNet winner is pointing to what could be another step in the evolution of computer vision and the wider field of artificial intelligence. Last month, a team of Microsoft researchers took the ImageNet crown using a new approach that they call Deep Residual Network. The name doesn't quite describe it. They have designed a neural net that's significantly more complex than typical designs, one that spans 152 layers of mathematical operations compared to the typical 6 or 7. And it shows that in years to come, companies like Microsoft, yes, that also have their Microsoft Cyber Patrol Center that's connected to police agencies across the globe trying to protect Nana's pocketbook. Yeah, that Microsoft. They will be able to use vast clusters of graphical processing units and other specialized chips to significantly improve not only image recognition, but other AI services, including systems that recognize speech and even understand language as we humans naturally speak it. In other words, deep learning is nowhere close to reaching its potential. We have just started at a huge design space, and we are trying to figure out where to go next. Deep neural networks are arranged in layers, and each layer is a different set of mathematical operations, aka algorithms. And the output of one layer becomes the input of the next. I mean, this is what I've been talking about, this exponential use and growth of technology. And if they're going to be using one algorithm to then come up with data that's fed into another algorithm to come up with data, this is, you know what, Skynet is already loose, guys. It's loose, and we are being enslaved right this very moment as we speak. But hey, don't worry about it, because all of the professionals out there are telling us it's going to be 30, 50, years before we ever have to worry about any of this stuff. I call bullshit on all that. They are way beyond anything we can imagine right now. The output of one layer becomes the input of the next, and loosely speaking, if a neural network is designed for image recognition, one layer will look for a particular set of features in an image, edges or angles or shapes or textures, and the next will look for another set. These layers are what make neural networks deep, and generally speaking, if you make these networks deeper, it becomes easier for them to learn. And, speaking of being easy to learn, beware, scientists are creating machines that can evolve on their own. We looked at that back a few months ago about the mother robot who created her baby robots and gave the baby robots all their good traits and got rid of all the bad. This one came out of Smithsonian Magazine. Scientists are creating machines that can evolve on their own, or to put it a nicer way, researchers have found a way for robots to grow on their own. Oh, how nice. Forget what you see in the movies. Most robots sit in a factory. Oh, it's doing weird things. Sit in a factory somewhere doing dull, repetitive work, and even if their software does dream of a more interesting job, their physical form remains fixed from the day they are assembled to the moment that they are junked. But it doesn't have to be that way, says pioneers of Evo Devo Robo, an evolutionary developmental robotics which applies principles of natural selection and biological development to machine design. And guys, I think we're going to pick it up there tomorrow because we are just about out of time. Make sure you stick around because Mr. Kevin Blanche is live up next. And then at 7 p.m. Eastern tonight, we have Ron with Game On Live. 8, Our Interesting Times with Tim Kelly. 9, The Boys from Primer Time, Michael and Nick live. 10, this week's Geoengineering Watch with Dane Wigington. And 11, the Anti-Media Radio with SM Gibson. All right, guys, everyone have an awesome Tuesday, and I will catch up with you tomorrow.